What's up guys? It's Austin from Thrill Seekers, and today we're out here in the desert where I'm gonna show you how to remove the stock seat off a Stark Varg and install a fresh Thrill Seeker seat cover. Let's get started. So if you have a Stark, you will probably get a tool set and it'll come with a set of Torx. You're gonna use your Torx and we're gonna remove this body kit, pulling the whole thing off. Then we'll remove the seat and then we'll remove the cover. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with these first two Torx. And these are gonna be the side bolts that connect the side plates and actually the whole subframe here. Let's take it to the other side. So you have to remove the whole body kit because the screws that hold the seat onto the bike are connected to the body kit from the underside. Those screws are not accessible unless you pull the whole body kit off. So next we're gonna remove these back three Torx that go under the fender here. Now we've got the back half done and we'll move it on up front. So now we're gonna remove, there are two torque bolts right here on each side, one upper and one lower that holds these shrouds on. You have to remove these again to pull the whole body kit off so we can get to the underside of the seat. I'll move to the other side. Upper down here. Now that the final bolts are out, make sure there's nothing attached, and this whole body kit will slide back and pop off. Give it a little wiggle, and there it is. We're gonna flip it over, and now there are 2, 4, 6, 8 Torx screws that hold the body kit to the seat. We're gonna remove those to separate the seat from the body kit. Now again, I'm a true thrill seeker. I'm doing this in the dirt. I don't super recommend it, but keep your bolts dry, clean, and not lost. So now that I've got all 8 of these body kit screws out, your body kit just boop, pops off like this. Set it down to the side. All right, so to remove this seat cover, standard procedure, I got a flathead screwdriver and a pair of pliers, needle nose, dikes, whatever you like, just to pull the staples out. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with this flathead and remove all these staples in the stock seat cover. Was Stark flexing by making a bigger seat than anyone else in the game? Maybe. This is the hardest part of the job, everybody. Well, you should always do your exercises. So I've got most of the staples out with the screwdriver. Anything that I couldn't pop all the way out, I'm gonna use my needle nose pliers, reach in and grab them. And that looks like all the staples. Let's get this seat cover off. Woo! Now it's time to put on a freshie. And we brought out to the desert this sweet, beautiful, all guacamole seat cover. Now here we got my sweet battery powered air compressor hooked up to my pneumatic staple gun, running 1/4-inch long staples. You don't wanna run them too long or you'll blow through the foam. I'm gonna fire this baby up and set the tank to about, I like 75 PSI. Shoots it into the plastic, doesn't reject it. If you go too high on the PSI, you will blow through your seat cover and you will notice that the staples go straight through your seat cover. If you go too low on the PSI, the staples will not fully penetrate the plastic, not securing your seat cover. Same with any seat cover, except this one's a little bit long. The only difference is you gotta make sure you don't get wonky or crooked as you work your way down, because it's a lot of real estate. Other than that, same drill. You line up the front, make sure you're nice and centered and that your seams are straight. You do not want to shift one way or another or else the whole thing goes sideways. Got the front centered. I'm gonna go ahead, shoot a couple staples in the front. Nice. Now, we're gonna pull nice and snug to the back, making sure we're centered. Line up the seams. Make sure we have a little bit of tension here, not too much, not too little. We are centered here. Woo, this baby is long. I'm gonna go ahead and go 3 in the back. The seams are nice and centered, and now we can work our way up. I'm gonna go to the middle of the seat and center the middle of the seat first, and we can work out the wrinkles as we go up and down. Hold it tight, work it around, use one hand to hold the tension. I'm gonna pull snug to the other side, again, making sure that we're centered. Pull it around nice and tight. So now we'll have a few wrinkles, obviously, but we are going to use our hands to work those forward, back, and out to get it nice and tight, smooth, and beautiful. So we're gonna work it over to one side and do a couple or a few staples on each side before you flip it over, check it, and move to the other side. I like to do 3 on each side as I go up. Some people like to do 2. It's how you like it. Just don't do too much or it's really easy to start getting wrinkly or moving the seat off too far to one side. You want to keep it centered the whole way. That's the most important part. So now we've got the front portion done. You can see nice and tight. Now we're gonna start at the center point and work our way to the back here. Again, flipping it over, checking that you're straight, working the fabric out with your thumbs, pushing out those wrinkles. And you don't wanna just push the fabric off to the side. You wanna make sure you're working it back and forward too to get the center wrinkles out. If you just pull straight down, you run the risk of these seams bending and warping, and it doesn't look good after it's installed. So if you're working at an angle and bringing it back and back, as you're pushing it down to the sides, it keeps your side seams perfectly straight and it will look much better when it's installed. And when you're shooting staples in, you should never have to put your weight or too much pressure on the gun. You run the risk of, again, blowing staples through the plastic or blowing big holes in your seat cover, or even breaking your plastic on the seat base. It should just be a light push to where you're getting some pressure in there, and the trigger should just blast the staple in every time. If it's not doing that and you do have to push really hard to get the staple to actually enter the plastic, it means your PSI is probably set too low.
Yeah, boys!
Yeah!
I was gonna light it up, but we got a ramp in the back. So we gotta keep it under control.
All right, we had a brief pause because Cole D just showed up. Now we're gonna finish up. Let's get the rest of this bad baby on and go rip. So now as we're getting these last staples in, make sure we're straight, make sure all the tension's out, no wrinkles, which we don't. And these back curves, the material might bunch up a little bit, no big deal. You just keep pulling, working it out. You'll end up shooting staples a little bit closer together towards the back. So be ready for that. If you take a look here, you'll notice there's quite a few more real butted up next to each other. Instead of these are more spread out. And that's just like I said, these tight curves on the back of the seat to make the material come around nicely and not have wrinkles. And we're on, baby. All right, now I got my trusty box cutter. I'm gonna trim the extra material off the underside of the cover. Don't leave these holes covered up because your body kit has to screw into those. So make sure you trim around these. Don't cut inside the staple line or your seat cover will be ruined. No. And now we're gonna throw it back on the bike. We're gonna set the body kit right back where it came off. You got a couple little guide tabs right here that will hold it in place for you until you start putting the screws on. That lets you know everything's in the right place. We got our 8 metal body kit bolts. Make sure you're nice and centered. Don't tighten them until you have all the bolts in place in case you need to shift the body kit at all to line up holes as you're working your way up. So nice and snug, nice and snug. All right, seats on the body kit. Time to put the body kit on the bike. Under here, 2 hooks here and 2 hooks here that you need to make sure and hook in place, or else the body kit will not sit flush. So you want to start by setting it on a little bit further back. Once it's almost on, you're going to push it forward. As you find that hook, the seat in this body kit will slide in flush to here. And that's exactly what you want right there. So we're nice and flush. Set this there. These holes are lined up. That's a good sign. Might have to just put a little pressure, pop these side plates into place. Looks like we're all lined up with the bolt holes here. So putting this thing on, I'm gonna start by putting in the subframe bolts. And again, just put them in, not fully tight, just to where it starts to snug up. And that way, if you need to shift the body kit at all to get the bolt holes to line up on any of the other bolts, you can do that and then come back and tighten everything at the end. Now, if you don't feel the thread start grabbing immediately, it means you're not fully centered. You may have to wiggle the seat or the body kit just a little bit to get it to line up straight. There we go. I like to use my fingers to start just because it allows you to not cross thread the bolt. And then once you feel it grab some threads, you're nice and lined up. All right, just before it's snug. Got those in. Now let's move it up to the front. Now that this is the final bolt, run it till it's nice and snug. And we're gonna go ahead and snug up the rest of them, working our way backwards. Snug. And finally, these are your subframe bolts, and you want these ones to be nice and tight, not just snug. So once they get snug, give them a little extra oomph, because those hold your frame together, not just your seat. And that is how you successfully remove a seat off a Stark Varg, install a fresh Thrill Seeker seat cover, get yourself looking and gripping way better, and put it all back together. Time to go for a rip.